Hey, it's John with Vision Advisors, and thank you for taking time to join us for what I think is going to be a very interesting call today. As you can see on the video, I've got Michael Wallen with me, and Michael is the developer of a very unique software program called LifeArc. And as we look at all the different things that are going on in the industry around us, we've seen this, suitability standard that many of us in the insurance industry have been under for years. The investment advisor side has got the fiduciary standard, and now we've gone back and forth. We had the DOL rule that got squashed, but we're seeing multiple states now raise the question of, do we move beyond suitability to best interest, or do we move to a fiduciary standard? But one of the things that I think is important for a producer is to understand and to have a duplicatable process that can help you sit down with the client, identify what the client has, uncover the opportunity that's there, and be able to present solutions and have a system in place that automates that so that you've got an opportunity every time to be able to work with your clients and be successful and uncover the opportunities that are there. So, Michael, of all the different platforms that are out there, I know there's a plethora of different platforms that are out there. Why would an insurance producer that is selling fixed index annuities, they're doing IUL, they're doing some long-term care, working with retirees, why would LifeArc be something that they may want to take a look at?
That's a great question, John, and thank you for having me on the call today to share a little bit about LifeArcPlan and to address some of these concerns. One, and in your opening comments, you talk about the regulations, and I think that is a very important aspect. We're going to continue seeing more and more heightened regulation. We're going to see it whatever the design or structure of that regulation is yet to be known, but it is forthcoming. And so advisors that are using LifeArcPlan are using us from a data gathering, and I apologize for that. They're using us from a standpoint of data gathering and communication with their clients. And so that is the design and structure of our platform. There's a lot of different fintech companies out there, but those fintech companies start at the point of sale. They do not start at the point of acquiring information. So as we were structuring and as the architects of LifeArcPlan, we really looked at where does the beginning point with the client really need to start? And that really is getting the information right. And so we've got a process system in place called InfoRight to make sure that we're gathering the right information holistically. And I say that because for some people, there can be a one-dimensional approach to a client. You mentioned IUL, you mentioned some of the other products. Well, some of those are more in a multi-dimensional approach with a client. But let's just say you had a client out there that simply needed to buy term insurance for 10 years to cover a known need or a known concern over a period of time. Well, those individuals are basically selling that term insurance product to that client for that one need, and that can be one-dimensional. But when we're looking at retirement planning, we're looking at investing dollars, whether it is in an IUL for future tax-free income, or we're taking money and putting it over into a retirement plan. There are more elements that comes in and is involved into that decision-making. LifeArcPlan is designed to look at 12 different facets of a person's life, gathering information in those areas to determine what is the dependency between each element of their life based upon, as you're designing a plan. We can do something in one aspect of a person's life, unbeknownst to us, can have a negative impact in another financial planning area of a person's life. So LifeArcPlan was designed to gather all the information, bring it up front, summarize it for the advisor so that they can have a more meaningful conversation with their clients as they move through identifying needs, determining solutions, and ultimately servicing that client for the long term.
Michael, I think you raised a very valid point there, because starting at the data gathering component is so important, because if you get bad data on the front end, whether it's incomplete or incorrect, your numbers on the back end when you're actually making a recommendation are going to be skewed because you don't have the right information. And as you mentioned, and I agree with that, the ability to be able to look broader at what we're doing, because there's a number of risks that individuals face in retirement. You know, you've got inflation risk, you've got sequence of returns risk, you've got all of these different problems that they deal with. And as they move into retirement, they've got other areas that are going to arise that they may not have thought of. They may come in and say, well, Michael, I just need you for an income plan. But that income plan could be affected if they get sick and they haven't factored in the long-term care contingency component. And now the money that would have been going to pay guaranteed income to pay their bills is now paying for the medical expenses or the care expenses. Now, how do you pay for the bills? So I love the way that your system looks at multiple channels and gives us an opportunity to expand and explore that so that we can be much more holistic and we can have those what-if conversations to really get the client thinking much broader about what they're trying to do.
It's true, John. And you bring up a point about the custodial or the community spouse. So if we were using long-term care as an element, and you typically when a financial advisor sits down with a client and they're gathering information inside of the budget, as they start to determine what is the household needs and what kind of cash flow analysis is in place, typically they don't go ahead and factor in what does a nursing home cost, what does adult care aid cost, what does it cost to have somebody come in the home, because it's not something they're experiencing today. And as we know, most individuals believe that whatever bad things can happen in life is never going to happen to them. And so part of our system flushes out and forces discussions around areas of planning that brings awareness to the client. The beautiful side of our software is as the client completes the LifeArcPlan survey, they are discussing or they're determining to you what is within the scope of that relationship they want to have with you. So a person that comes on that it fills out our survey, they may tell you that they have an interest in income planning strategy. They have an interest in having an investment plan. They may have an interest in a healthcare plan, but they may say they don't have an interest in an education plan. It may not be a charitable plan. There may not be an estate plan. When they come in and they identify that those areas are not within the scope, it leaves you as the advisor two ways. One, it's outside of the scope and the relationship you're building for them, but it gives you opportunity to educate that client in the importance of how those other aspects can play into the overall strategy. And so again, it's a great way to initiate the conversations and build a more holistic plan around their needs, not just today, but understanding also potential future needs that could be presented to them.
Exactly. You know, and one of the things that I do in training with producers, and you touched on it, Michael, is helping the clients know what they don't know, because they don't know what they don't know. I did a podcast yesterday and was talking about long-term care issues, and there was a recent IRI study that pointed out the fact that even though the statistical odds are a 65-year-old has got roughly a 7 in 10 chance they're going to deal with care, in a study that was done broadly across the United States of people between 55 and 70, only 31% of those believed that a long-term care event was likely, and they were not planning for that as a contingency in retirement. So a software program like yours can really create the opportunity for having those important conversations and really, as you said, educating that client on what is important, what they're missing, and the elements of their plan that maybe they haven't considered that could end up, you know, basically blowing their plan up if they don't address those and have a plan for those. Can you show us a couple things on the software itself, Michael, in terms of some functionality, and maybe give the folks that are watching this just a little bit of a taste? I know it's, you know, in a short time can't show a lot, but maybe just a few screens or a few concepts or ideas you could share with us. Absolutely.
And those that have an interest in a deeper dive, they can always ask for a demo. We'll be happy to go through and show them how it directly impacts them. Let me hit a share screen here for us. And okay. One of the things that you immediately see on the screen here is recent, and this stands for LifeArcPlan Information Survey Activity. On this screen right here, the moment that I log into my advisor portal, this is an internal communication portal with my clients. So if one of my clients had a question as they're going through the software or inputting it, if they put a question in and submit it to me, the first thing I see when I log in is that question. I can immediately respond back to them, and that it's an internal communication chat directly to my clients. So I'm going to log out at this point, and let's say that an advisor, and I am in the advisor portal now. It is a very streamlined approach. One thing that we have is a tutorial on every single element of our software. So we do not leave it to question. That's on the advisor side as well as on the client side as they're completing information. But in this system, if I want to bring on a new client, this is how simple it is. And here's a real live scenario. Let's say we have an advisor out there in the community that is doing education workshops, dinner workshops, doing an event of some kind where individuals have came into them. They can, at the conclusion of their meeting, they can have the clients go to the back of the room and meet with their attendee or their employee, and that individual can be in the portal. All they have to do is put in first name, last name, email address. If they are married, if they click on it, they can put in the spouse's information. Now, I use Redtail. One of the powerful systems that we have through LifeArc is integration with the other software platforms that an advisor may be using. I personally use Redtail. So if I click Redtail, when this information is put in, it automatically sets up a new contact, a new client or a new contact in my Redtail that then can be moved over as a client as that process moves forward. We have integration with Redtail, WealthBox, Salesforce, a plethora of different CRM systems, and that's just one element. So it's very easy. You type in the client's name, hit send, and that client would receive an email immediately giving them the credentials to be able to log into the software. We also have the ability that when that email is sent out, we have a edit my profile section here. So an advisor logs in, they input all of their profile. So the moment they send out that welcoming email to a client, there is a prestige brochure that is sent out to the advisor, all branded to the client, all branded to the advisor with all their information, everything that the advisor would like to share with them, we have built into the system. So it's another way of having a touch and creating a very professional platform from the initiation.
Now, Michael, one of the things I do like about your platform that's unique and different from a lot of the other programs like this is your system actually integrates and involves the client in the data gathering process. Can you touch on that for just a little?
Yeah, let's switch over to my next screen. So I've sent out the link. And so let's imagine that that client has received the link from the client. They now log into the software. And so when the client logs into the software with that username and password, the first two things they're going to do, and to back up one section, we believe that we can generate better information gathering by allowing the client the ability to input their data in the comfort of their home or wherever they feel most comfortable. They can do it at their own speed. So for our personal practice, we do not meet with a client until they've completed their LifeArc plan. Because when we do our first meeting with them, we don't want to create an interrogation type process or going through a static confidential questionnaire. When we come through and we have the initial meeting with them, we've already gathered their information. We're now having meaningful discussions around what they really want to achieve and how our services can be provided to them. So the client receives this. They're going to select right up front, is it the input with an advisor assistance or without an advisor assistance? So let's say that client you have that they don't have a computer. Not a problem. Come to our office and we can do the data gathering together. We're just going to do it through the LifeArc platform. But for the majority of clients, it is much better for them to be able to input their data at home. So for this situation, if I click, yes, I'm doing it without the advisor, and I can do a preliminary version or I can do a comprehensive version. Based upon the complexity of a person's estate, these are the average times it will take them for their data input. I save my options. Now, the reason why I did that, when the client completes that information, that is date stamped and archived. It is the first level of creating a defensible position for the advisors. What we want to avoid is that 10 years down the road, 20 years down the road, either the client or their heirs comes to an advisor and says, I never gave you that information, or I didn't tell you that's what I wanted to do. And we can always go back, because every piece of information given to us is date stamped and archived. And I'll share that with you in a few moments. But this is what the client experiences. They come in, they go through this is all customizable based upon the advisor's personal practice, but we have a nice little welcome intro letter or communication to the client. We tell them right up front there's going to be a 6-step process. Some advisors may have a different process. We can adjust for that. But in this, we're letting them know what to expect each step of the way. At the bottom of it, the page on the initial page, they're going to tell us what areas of planning is important to them. So if investment planning, Social Security planning, retirement income planning, tax planning, healthcare planning, personal care planning, education planning, charitable planning, and estate planning. We have units for each one of those planning areas that are very specific into the data gathering around that core unit. So a person could come through here, and John, and they could select all 10 areas if they wanted to, and then they can rank them high, moderate, or low to what level of importance it is to them. This also defines the relationship and establishes our initial letter of engagement. And I'll show that to you as well. But this is going to be layered in. And as you see, as I hyperlink over each of these are one-page documents that are created to give an explanation to your prospect or your clients to what is investment planning. And there's a one-pager on each of the 10 core elements that we present in LifeArc. So once they've input this information, they click and move over. Now they start doing data entry, and we're going to gather personal information about them based upon how an individual answers a question. It works very much like in an accordion platform. If I would have came in here and said that I was never married, it would have collapsed that section. So based upon, and the software is built this way all the way through, based upon the way a client asks or answers a question, it'll either expand a section or reduce a section. So we're gathering the information from on the personal side. Then we go into their employment. One of the questions that we have for them is, do you have multiple jobs? A lot of people may have a personal business, but they also may be a W-2 employee with someone as well. We're going to gather all of that information so that we can truly analyze cash flow and future invest. If you have a closely held business that's potentially going to be sold in the future to be a part of your retirement plan, we want to capture all of that information. We do a high-level health assessment. We basically want to know, do you have any areas of problems in any of these areas? This helps us know, and again, having meaningful conversations from the first appointment with the client, we want to know, are we going to be looking to build a retirement income plan for 30 years in retirement? Or if a person has came in and said they've got a heart problem, they've had a stroke, they've got diabetes, well, at that point, we probably would say, maybe 20 years in retirement, maybe 15 years in retirement, based upon what is happening, so that we can have a more meaningful conversation. And as you mentioned, John, we look at two different areas in the data gathering process. We're looking both quantitatively and qualitatively at a person's needs. So the qualitative is what's going to bring joy and happiness in a person's life. The other side is what is going to be the quantitative. What do we have to do with the amount of resources they have to give them the highest probability of success in retirement? And we do that through the expectation section, where we start asking them, what do you want to do in your pre-retirement and your retirement years? We really want to divide that time period, and this really gives us an opportunity to have discussions. What is retirement really going to look like? Let's paint that picture. Then we get into the concerns. We get into what are their income concerns, and then we also get into what are their expense concerns. So now we start analyzing cash flow. What are some of the things that we want to avoid in the future? Then we look at their heirs. Who at the time that their life ends, who do they want their assets to go to? And not only these can be their heirs, but do they want them to receive an inheritance? We all know the story of Glenn Neesham and what happened in California based upon filling out an application and not putting in a beneficiary. That was a very costly mistake on his part that cost him his practice. Well, inside of this, if they had been using our software system and the parent had put in that no, they didn't want that person to receive an inheritance, in the future, the advisor now has a defensible position because this is information provided by the client, not by anyone else. So again, it's a way of making sure that we properly structure and we're gathering the right information. Then we go into a very comprehensive budget. We're very budget centric. We're looking at both inflationary and non-inflationary to truly grasp what is the impact on the household budget. I believe that many advisors today overestimate how much is needed in retirement because they capture the current household budget. They look at a forward forecasting measurement, time value, and they put an applicable inflation rate to that number. That's making an assumption that every dollar spent in the budget is an inflationary item. And we know that that's not correct. A lot of what we have around our residence, which is a bulk of our budget, is a non-inflationary adjusted expense. So one of the things that we've done a really good job in this software is identifying and neutralizing down the over expectancy of the impact of inflation on a future budget. We also capture business interest. Again, one of the things that we want to know is what are you going to do with this property? What is the purpose of this? Does this business sponsor, do they have a retirement plan? Or if it's a closely held business, do you plan on selling this to be a part of your retirement needs in the future? I met with a client a couple of months ago now and had a closely about $6.5 million at about $2 million that was liquid, $4.5 million in closely held business interest. Well, he wanted to retire, but he didn't want to sell his business interest, but the $2 million wouldn't give him the distribution he needed for his income. And part of it was he had collectibles and business interest. And I was like, if you don't sell them, you can't retire today. So it allowed us to have a very meaningful conversation around that. So again, we capture the information. We separate the information out also to the spouse so that we're gathering the data independently between husband and wife. And then we start getting into the planning sections based upon what they told us was levels of interest to them. And it's very easy to use our system. For instance, with Social Security, we're going to tell them a little write-up about it. It helps the client to stay engaged in what we're doing. We click Get Started, and they start inputting information. Are you eligible to receive retirement benefits? If I said no, it's going to ask me. Part of our software is we've built in coding from the IRS. We built in coding from the legal table or the legal precedents that are out there. we've built that into our software that guides and directs the advisor in their conversation with their client. So if I wasn't eligible and a person came in and I do not have one of these exemptions that the IRS allows, I now have to tell what the situation is. Okay. And, you know, the questions can follow the same process with a spouse. And then we instruct them how to go to the SSA, and they can click on it and they can actually upload a file to us of their current statement. So this is a portal for allowing the client to remit all of the documents to us so we can review it before we have the first appointment. So that's one of the areas. Again, we go through investment planning, retirement planning, tax planning, healthcare planning. One of the things in healthcare planning, as an example, are you covered under an employer-sponsored healthcare plan? Yes. If we say no, we want to know, is it under a marketplace? Are you currently uninsured for healthcare coverage? You know, we want to know what it is that we're gathering information on. Then, do you have a long-term care policy? If I say yes, tell me the information about your long-term care policy. We want to review that. We want to review it in retrospect of the needs that you may have in the future. Because one of the fastest ways to blow up a retirement income plan, as you mentioned earlier, John, is not having protection in the event that we have a spouse that has to be institutionalized and it blows up the plan for the community spouse. And so that's what we're capturing in this process. So at any time, one of our prospects or clients are filling out information, they can simply come over here and ask, you know, what do you want me on SSA. If they sent me this message and they hit send, it's now going to show up over in my portal that this client has requested a chat session with me. So when I log into the software, I just sent the message, it came to me, told me that that client needed to have a chat conversation. So it now allows immediate conversation back and forth between the client and the advisor.
That's pretty slick.
Yeah.
Well, Michael, we're about to run out of time in today's session, and I hope this gives you, ladies and gentlemen on the call, an opportunity to get a little bit of taste of what I think is one of the most unique systems in the marketplace. We're going to try to take a deeper dive with Michael in the future and do another video where we can actually go a little more into the program and really get some more depth for it. But if you have questions about LifeArc, you want to get something scheduled where you want to do a one-on-one demo, please feel free to reach out to us here at Vision Advisors. Michael, anything you want to add as we get ready to wrap up before I bring this to an end?
No, I think that I think it's a great opportunity. I thank Vision and you, John, for giving us an opportunity to speak to your advisors. One of the things that I would say in closing, we've talked about how you get the prospect engaged into the process, how they complete it. Set up a demo so we can show you how to properly manage your sales pipeline and the relationship with each of your clients. And you can do that directly through the advisor portal that you see on the screen here. It's a powerful tool. We have just covered the tip of the surface on the power of LifeArc. Set up a demo and let us fully demonstrate how we can optimize your advisor and practice and put you in more control of the data flow with your clients.
Absolutely. So, Michael, again, thank you for the relationship that we have with you and LifeArc. Ladies and gentlemen, again, if you've got questions on this platform, please feel free to reach out to us here at Vision Advisors. Michael, what's a good phone number in case they want to contact you directly?
They can contact us here at the office at 888-302-5559. 888-302-5559.
Very good. Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for taking time to join us, whether you're joining us live or you're catching this on our YouTube channel. Thank you for taking time to learn a little bit more about an additional tool that we're bringing to the table. And by the way, don't forget, if this is a tool that you do want to implement and use in your practice, this qualifies as a qualifying reimbursement item in Vision's Money2Market program. So if you're looking to engage this software to purchase it for your use, your production with Vision Advisors can help pay for access to LifeArc. So thank you for joining us. Hope you have a great day. We look forward to having you on our next Vision podcast.